All right, Jack and Maurice.
Mm.
Let me read this. This is kind of where I want to start the conversation. I wrote this as a mock book title, and I like the term dust up as a place where arguments start. Dust up. So the name of the book right now is Dust Ups: What Couples Fight About and How Comedy is the Best Medicine So Dust Ups Don't Become Bust Ups. Now, you two don't have to worry about the comedy, but things will lead to that through my sense. And I do think that there is something about laughing about how awful it is in the middle of an argument, but that'll be later. So here's what I wrote. I was 78 and a half when I began my first sustainable lover relationship. My two marriages were over before they started, and other candidates passed through. At 79 and counting, I am in beginner's mind, taking relationships seriously for the first fucking time in my life. All caps. I am now living through what couples have been doing around me and on TV and movies, books, and magazines all my life. Not to mention YouTube. It is with whatever wisdom I've conjured up that I see dust ups as natural to any full body relationship or close family relationship, with, of course, exceptions. I'm thinking about good people actually doing the best they can. And here come the dust ups, whether once a day, once a week, once a month, dot, 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 dot. So my girl and me, we have dust ups, maybe one a week. And maybe once in a while, they get to an existential crisis. So that's the map, I think, of what I want to. I want this for myself, and I bet a lot of people do. So who wants to who wants to talk first? Who's got something to put in right here?
Well, I'll jump in. I've been a relationship educator for 30 years, psychotherapist for the same amount of time, specialist. I've been called an expert. I've written books. I've done workshops on every continent. I've worked with literally hundreds of couples. And nowhere in my world do I feel more often lost, disoriented, and confused as in my intimate partnership with my beloved, with whom I've been a partner now for almost 10 years. And I kid you not, guys, I feel like sometimes just the most unskilled, primitive, regressed, completely lost in terms of the simple idea of how causality happens, how intention and impact, my intention, oh, I didn't mean it. The impact, oh, you devastated me. I'm like over here, like twisting in the wind, injured. But my intention was, yeah, but your impact was. So that the intention impact divide, which I think we can talk about a lot here, because I think most dust ups are a consequence of the intention impact divide. I don't think many of us are full on psychopaths and want to hurt, demean, humiliate, injure our partners. We just get in trouble and have kind of no idea how the hell we got there. Right? So my intention, I think, is usually good. Look, I was raised by a psychopath, so maybe there's some psychopathic stuff in there. We can talk about that later. We'll put a pin in that because that's an interesting one in terms of my relationship experience. But the craziness that I've gotten to with it, and I'll just leave it at this because I've got a lot more to say, and I want to hear from you, Jack, and I want you to be funny, Rock, and so I want this to get going. What I'm aware of is that in my not being aware, there's so much confusion about both who I am, so perceptions of me, and who the other is, who my girl is. So perceptions of other, which is really the heart of psychology, right? It's the internalized perceptions of self and the internalized perceptions of others. That's how we get in trouble. That's what all of psychology is all about. That's what I do in my work every single day. I help people with identity integration. That's essentially perception of self. I help them with their relationships with everybody, their partners, their parents, their friends, their coworkers. That's perception of other, but it's based on perception of self. So in that world, that incredibly crazy fluid world, perception of self and perception of other, and the distorted perception of self and other, that's where the rubber hits the road. That's where it gets exciting. That's where it gets crazy making. That's where you can say, I can't effing believe that's just what happened, and that happened to me, and that I got into this, Mr. Relationship Educator. My girl's up and looks at me and says, like, you're even a therapist? I can't even imagine that you're like human. You seem like, sub primate to me. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Canine, feline. I'll go with feline, right? Anyway, really glad to be here. It's fun. I can't wait to see what you're going to bring, Jack and Rock. I want to laugh.
Thank you. Thank you, Maurice. Ah!
Thank you, Maurice. Oh boy. So I want to start my participation in whatever this is, imagining that perhaps a woman of the female persuasion gender might be watching this and just going like, you got to be effing kidding me. It's three guys in their heads. And by the way, it's not a put down to anything you said, Maurice. I follow right along, and I want to get in there and talk about the theory. And yeah, isn't it like this? And those women don't get, like who's the Robert guy who was banging on drums, forming men's groups in the 80s? I mean, I'd heard about that stuff, but I wasn't ready. Robert Bly, thank you. And I remember hearing about that first and going, oh boy, here we go, the cavemen, and now I'm in California for 25 years, and I'm like, oh no, there's value in that. I need to be with men, and I need to talk the stuff the way we do. But just imagining there's an audience where women are watching this, including my beloved, I'm not even sure I'm aware enough to think, well, should I even say her name? I want her to keep her privacy. So I'll call her CG. And she would be looking at this and going like, I mean, she might be compassionate depending on the mood, but if we were in one of our dust-ups, and they get pretty freaking dusty, it would be like, oh God, like what do you do? Like, are you even here? Are you even a human being? Do you have any feelings, Mr. Spock? And then we'll joke about that, which is kind of one of my techniques, because I'm so smart. But it's a completely different way of being. And I keep thinking of the yin yang symbols, where there's a speck of the other inside. And if I can get there, I can like, oh my God, she's right. From another perspective, she's 100% right. I'm in my head because I don't want to feel all this shit. But there's a good rational reason why it's good not to feel this right now, because then we can't, then we're just yelling at each other. I'm in my head still.
I mean, I appreciate you naming that, Jack, right? I mean, look, we're three white guys, right? We're three white, straight, cisgender white guys. That's the truth. We're three privileged guys. We're at the top of the food chain, and I've gotten in a lot of trouble saying that, Rock, haven't I? You
Yes.
remember, right?
Mhm.
But we are.
Mhm.
That's the truth, right? We walk with privilege anywhere we want, with swagger, with freedom, with absolute impunity, right? And it's not a but, it's an and, like naming all that, sure. And what we're talking about is just getting in trouble with relationships. There are unconscious processes that are unbelievably complex operating in all of us that make relationship really, really, really confusing, make perception really confusing. And we swear that it was this way. And it just wasn't that way. Objective reality, if we had a film of it, it's going to say that it was not that way. You misperceived it. You don't understand yourself, and you don't understand your other based on all of the stuff that's happened to you. So we can come back to this, right? But this is a human thing, guys. It's a psychological thing. It has to do with trauma, attachment, neuroscience.
I'll put it in layman's terms and say what I've learned. And I have learned, I mean, when I was in my 20s, I knew everything, right? And now I've learned so much more. I know how little I know, right? So one of them is, the word I have for it is equanimity, which is I have a point of view and I'm convinced I'm right. And sometimes I'm really, no, I'm not just saying theoretically, like I know I'm right. I can see her stuff. And what I've learned to say is, no, Jack, just what Maurice said, just my point of view based on my experience. She's a completely different person with a whole different set of beliefs, a whole different set of completely equally valid life experiences So she looks at the guy talking like I am now, saying, God, you're talking a lot. I'm like, no, don't you? The content of what I said is so important. You have to understand, CG. And she's like, no, you're talking. And I realized I can't talk my way into that situation or through it, because it's not talking that she needs in that moment. And it's worse. The hole gets deeper as I'm shoveling into the bottom of it, trying to dig my way out. Like, I know what I'm doing won't work, but I can't stop because I don't know how to do it her way, which is why she's so goddamn attractive and beautiful to me, and I'm in love with her. Oh, wow.
Wow. I mean, I know that feeling of digging, Jack. I know the feeling of just, if I just got one more, if you just understood this one more thing. So my new thing is I'll just stop talking. And I thought that's going to be like this great thing. And of course it doesn't work. It's like I stop talking. It's like, what's wrong with you? You're in toxic silence. And it's like the rageaholic banging in the kitchen. And you know, it's like there's no way out. I can't mansplain my way out, and I can't shut up. Shutting up doesn't work. I mean, look, when we're in the field, it's a beautiful thing. So we create a field, we humans, each two of us create a field of like perception and projection. And when we've been together a long time, we have these memory networks that are super complex that have to do with the other being very kind to us, but mainly also letting us down, betraying us, humiliating us, like the momentary experiences of that. And it's just this palpable thing. And so sometimes I'm just like blown away by the impossibility of it. And I can't repair. I want to repair. Let's repair, right? I'm all about repair. Do it.
I just can't fix it, mommy.
Yeah. Perfect, Jack.
For me, 11 years old, my mother was crying 2 doors down through 2 closed doors, sobbing because dad left, her husband left. And I was a little kid, and I would sometimes comfort her. And I felt, I mean, thank God it never got sexual and did a lot of damage. She was really stable that way. But, you know, her little boy is coming to comfort her, and she needed comfort. And I felt why do I have such vivid memories of that time, huh? It's because I couldn't fix it, trying to help my mommy, right, at age 11. And it didn't, part of me said, you know, like, don't get too, you know, I love my mom, I want to be close to her, but not too close. You know, that was in my awareness at age 11. And for somehow to joke about something my father said when his second wife, not my mom, talked about the time that she was locked in the basement, and as the mother was closing the door to punish her, she said, watch out for the rats, and closed the door. My father, who had taken therapy, said to me, not joking, yeah, I mean, that's terrible, but how long are you going to get a little thing like that to bother you? Like, I don't know, Dad, maybe your entire life to the grave. How about that? Because mine is still with me. I'm aware of it now. So that's my way out. But it's got nothing to do with her. It's my stuff.
Jack, so great. So great. Thank you for surfacing it. We had to go there, right? And it's just so cool that we're both mama's boys. So I learned how to be a therapist by therapizing my mother, right? With her psychopath husband, my father, right? I mean, really sick guy. That's a subject for a different time. But really severely disturbed man, my father. And my mother's in relationship. I'm counseling her since I can remember. And here's the deal with us, Jack. Here's the deal. No matter what, we failed. No matter they left, no matter they didn't leave, no matter they stood up, no matter they folded, we failed. So the net of that experience of being co-opted into, recruited into that parental advisor role is that we always get it coupled with an experience, a profound one of failure, because we do not make them happy. We do not heal them. We do not repair their wounds, their attachment trauma, their experience in life. It doesn't work. So we're failures. So we carry that failure into all of our relationships. And that's a huge dimension, right? We're bound to lose.
The kind of woman I am attracted to is emotional and volatile. And I would say, I mean, when I first meet the attractive woman, it's they're alive. Wow. And I've come to believe that my attraction, besides my societal training to be attracted to a pretty face or a pretty body, it's energetic. I think it's love and lust and sex, and I can intellectualize it, but there's also something going on, the meta connection underneath, which is our wounds dovetail So there's going to be a lot of fun and romance and crackling and maybe good sex if we're lucky or whatever. And then you're going to get to the work. The thing that attracted me later becomes a thing that, like, oh my God, you're like a child, you're like an infant. You're just going up and down with your emotions. How can you live like that more fully, not squelching all your emotions and living in your head separated from them, not fully alive? Wow. And all that flashes through my very quick head, my quick mind, in the middle of a fight. And I go to Maurice's thing, I call it vapor lock. Like, arguing isn't going to work. It's just not going to work.
Yeah.
And falling silent is retreating the conversation and leaving her abandoned. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, no way out, no easy resolution. And then I'm a teacher of mine, Michael, who actually spoke to him today in a workshop, did teach me one technique which puts me to my limit, because I know it's right and it's very difficult for me to do. So that's the thing I often try to do. One of my little tools, my little toolkit. That guy needs a little toolkit. Give me a hammer and I'll fix it. It's fixing me. It's called, Jack, stop talking. Don't do that. That doesn't work. Don't retreat emotionally. I've matured where I don't leave the room anymore, which is what I used to do. I'm not going to fight. I'm better. I'm just going to abandon her. Yeah, that works. So that doesn't work. My tool, look at her and be with her. Feel her anger. Try not to take it on. It's not, it's because of something I did. No, just like, wow, she's really hurt. And if I can, try to get to compassion for her in the moment, which is really tough, because then I'm asking myself to give her the thing that I want in that moment.
Yeah.
That's very difficult.
Very.
But I know that's what she in that moment wants. Just hear me, recognize me, see me, understand me. And then I realize that's what I want. Yeah. We're the fucking same in that moment. In the middle of a screaming match. Because I've learned it's okay to scream. I wasn't taught that growing up. You do not scream. Well, I can scream. In the middle of that, I can sometimes get to, wow, she wants what I want. I want what she wants right now. We're the same. Don't talk it, Jack. That will not work. Get to passion.
Yeah. Well, Jack, you're alluding to like being in a mature or adult self or subpersonality. I think we have to talk about this in some way, find language for it. But I don't buy that it's like head, heart. I contend that this is really about being in a different subpersonality or self. Because look, you guys, when I'm in my angry teen, I'm not in him very much, but when I'm in that subpersonality, I'm a son of a bitch. It's not me. It's not the me you know. Rock, you've seen it a couple times. I've seen yours, right? It's harsh. It's punitive. It's competitive. It's power over. It's not mitigated by the adult consciousness, the identity that I have. Like I would hope most of the time, some of the time, all the time with my clients, or almost all the time, and I hope with my friends, which is governed by love, compassion, understanding, and kindness. And those are the big four. And so the younger self, so there's also the self-invalidating teen, the self-critical one, who puts oneself down and is just like unsure of oneself, self-doubting. And then of course the victim child, which I'm rarely in straight up, but I do the angry teen thing pretty well. And I definitely do the self-invalidating teen. So that's the deal. And look, it's a full organismic presentation. When I'm in that, I'm in my body. There's sensations that go along with it. There's emotions that go along with it. There's thoughts. There's a narrative about self and other. Like I'm her victim. Like she's not attentive enough to me. Like, why don't I have a partner who shows up for me like I show up for her? Look at me. There's a lot of me here, right? I want somebody fully here with me. And she's more distant. She's more avoidant, right? And so she leaves a lot of space for me, which is actually really good for me, because my mother was all over me like a stink on shat. I mean, unbelievable. And so I've got this situation that my adult knows is perfect for me, and that triggers the hell out of me sometimes. So the different parts of me show up, and it's a shit show, right? I mean, I think it'd be really fun to act that stuff out sometime, right? To be victim, play victim, angry teen, victim, self-invalidating teen, right? I've seen your angry teen, Jack, when we've talked about the environment and the state of the goddamn world, and I love him. And he's fucking pissed that we've stewarded our planet into a shithole.
But what does my anger, when I get into the angry, as a friend called me the jack-a-ranter, what does my anger cover? What's underneath the anger?
Well, I mean, let's just talk about what it does for you before we talk about it as a liability.
No,
Let's
no,
talk
no, no,
about it.
no, no. That's not a liability. For me, it's a simple. The simple question I'm going to answer is pain.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, no, I got
And I don't
that.
want to feel the pain. Or I decide that if I show pain, which is tears,
Yeah,
in a public setting and out in the world, you go
yeah,
cry and hug a tree, you're a nut job. We don't
yeah,
show that
yeah.
culture, right?
I know you love trees too, but I wanted to go to the chat to the resource part of it first, right? So your anger is agency. That's a little boy who was afraid and clinging to his mother and frightened, who has found his voice. And hurrah, and you've got power. Agency means you can push buttons and pull levers and get something done in the world. That's agency. And that anger of yours serves a purpose. It lets you know your rights have been violated, right? Okay, it covers pain for sure. We don't want you to live in it, but we want to celebrate it too. Like that part of you needs a seat at the table, permanent seat. And to talk about it immediately as a liability like that, like, oh, it covers this or it avoids that, is to demean its importance in the organism that you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love your anger. I don't think when you're ranting, oh, he's in pain, or oh, I want to help him so I get to crying or get to the grief underneath, which I know exists. Big deal, right? Of course you're grief stricken. So am I. We could cry in each other's arms for an eternity and not be done. An eternity and not be done.
So it sounds like we've all perhaps chosen relationships where we're challenged to grow if we want to maintain our relationships. So I mean, I guess I would, as I was reading my self-help books 20 years ago and started down this road of more awareness, which really started with being a therapist and my mom too, trying to help. Being in a relationship is one of, it can be one of the, great paths to growth because you're constantly challenged by another person.
And I agree with you. And again, nothing brings me to my knees. It makes me realize, Rock, you said it, the beginner's mind thing. I mean, I don't know shit in that moment. And that's an incredible thing for me. Look, I'm a know-it-all. You all know that. You're a know-it-all, Jack, and so are you, right? We're all know-it-alls, right? Or we have a know-it-all part, right? That's connected to the angry teen. It's interesting, right? It's a part of us. And that's how we've survived in the world. We're all smart. And so we're right about a bunch of stuff. And it's an amazing thing to feel so lost and so wrong.
Yeah, I want to speak from that beginner's mind because the time in our dust ups as they escalate with my girl, there's the moment when I know I'm right. I mean, I'm right away. I'm getting all the people in the world that we both know will actually absolutely know in this simple instant I am fucking right.
I love that, Rock.
And I'm right, and she won't. And if I say anything in there, it's like she'll take it 7 ways out. That's the moment that we're talking about. We stop action. If we were making a video, stop action and now talk for an hour. Let's talk for an hour about what, well, I'm going to say, what do I do? But it's more like what's really happening.
Yeah. I love it. Well, we've talked about this, Rock. So my angry man guru, Jack, is a guy called Newton Hightower, big 6'4" Texan therapist, wrote a silly named book called Anger Busters 101. Absolutely brilliant. His mission in life is helping angry men, really angry men, learn how to live in society. I mean, batterers, full on physical batterers. And so what he teaches men is you cannot ever be right. You cannot afford to be right, because when you're right, and I think this has a lot to say to all of us, and this is what you're talking about, Rock. When we're right, when we know we're right, it justifies whatever we're going to do next. And so what angry men do is they're like, no, they cut me off. Like of course I followed him home with my baseball bat and beat the shit out. They cut me off. I'm right. I got cut off, right? So when we're right, when you're right, Newton says you're wrong. And so you can never be right in your relationship with your women or whoever you're in a relationship with, you're gay, straight, or anywhere in between. And it's a really radical formulation. Look, I don't think it works long-term psychologically, but I think it's a fascinating thing for us to think about in terms of our own psychology. And when we can get the most harsh and righteous when we know we're right. And then what we do is we do this outrageous thing that's the self-scapegoating thing. So we're right over here about the content, and then we do this outrageous thing that's based on us being right, and that becomes a new issue, right? That we said something outrageous. I mean, we don't hit anybody, right? I'm assuming, but we say something harsh, humiliating, or cruel, and that becomes the issue. And the content over here around which we were right is completely lost.
But in those arguments, the heated ones, I like to take the high ground by saying, "Hey, yeah, I said something nasty," and then the adult in me says, "But you started it." and we could all agree, we men here living on Mars, that the Venusians usually started with that out of control emotion, which is just so unreasonable and unpleasant for me. Please do not do that. Let's lower our voices now. I can control my anger. I am superior to you. Let's discuss this rationally. But she's like, I throw a chair at your face. Deal with that, buddy. Oh, you're allowed to be violent because you're a woman, but I'm a man more strong than you, so I am not allowed to be violent. And I'm not violent. That's not my thing. But I can finally, my balloon will burst and I'll yell and be like, and then I express my anger. It's like, okay, you got me to be angry. Are you happy? Like, no, it's not what you wanted. It didn't solve anything. I'm still avoiding being, well, compassionate in the moment. Compassionate.
Jack, that's a great voiceover voice of yours. By the way, it's just that it's voiceover good, right? You're sort of I know it all voice. I mean, it's just it's unbelievably irritating and perfect. You nailed it.
I the best I can do. God knows I have a lifetime of work ahead of me, but the best I can do is I can watch it always and go, wow, I did that again. And I'm really angry. And that part of me is really at the forefront. Like what you said, Lee, I'm right. I know I'm right. If Lee and Maurice were watching now, they'd know that I'm right. Let's go to a therapist and the therapist will be referee and say that I'm right.
See, there's an impossibility about it, right? So what my girl and I have done for a very long time is create these, and I'm going to come out here and self-disclose, and it's a humiliating self-disclosure, but I actually love it. So we have these little stuffed animals that are alter egos for us, and mine is a little chimpanzee named Gordon, the Gordon we call him, and hers is a little prairie dog named Hoodoo, which is an iteration on the hoodoos of the Bryce Canyon and the big spires that grow up from the earth. So Gordon and Hoodoo are our alter egos. So when we're in a conflict, so here's the deal. The way we repair in conflict, in theory, I'm not saying I can do this, but I know the theory real well, is that somebody accesses their adult and pivots into something that's either compassionate or understanding or loving, or, and this is very interesting, right? It's not comic avoidance, but it's humor or playfulness, right? Now, what Gordon and Hoodoo allow us to do allows me to caricature myself in it if I can have the presence of mind to do it and say, oh, the Gordon, did this unbelievably unconscious thing. By the way, Jack, that's what I do. So my acting outs are behavioral ones. I would never say, oh, she's hot-headed and I'm cool, calm, and composed. What I'll do is some unconscious or unthoughtful thing, like unconscious and unthoughtful. Like I had a mother who worshiped the ground that I work. I mean, she worshiped my feces. She'd take my feces out of the toilet and make a little shrine for her day. I mean, really, really. And there was no cruelty, humiliation, right? She just loved me to death. I mean, loved the ground, really, really loved. So my thing is, I just, I walk around and I have a teen part, a little boy that it just feels like he's the most special goddamn thing in the world. And then of course, underneath that is a little boy that knows I'm like achingly insecure, insignificant, and weak. And so it's this really wild dichotomy. You see it a lot with kids that are smothered in that particular way. Anyway, I'll make a joke about the Gordon doing something unbelievably stupid, like worse than what I did. And she'll crack up. And then she'll say, well, the Hoodoo, dug a hole and he's doing something and blowing smoke up your ass. And we have a little laugh about it. And it really works for a lot of our conflict. So the Gottmans up in Seattle say this, and I like them, right? The therapist team, husband and wife. Anyway, they say that, look, healthy couples do one thing that other couples don't do. And of course, that's repair. And they have up to, and this is of course just an unscientific guess, 70% of the content in their lives is permanently unresolved.
Wow.
How's that?
Wow.
Is that beautiful? 70% of what? Money, in-laws, sex, design, clutter versus zen, dishes versus more relaxed about doing them, whatever it is, right? Toothpaste cap, making the bed, 70% unresolved. And they just know how to repair. And they use humor and playfulness. They live with the mess in the back room.
How comforting. Even if it was only 30%, I'd be comforted.
It's a lot, Rock, right?
Right. We're not wrong and failing, and it's not about making it perfect. It reminds me, there's a documentary film, I think I mentioned to you another time, Lee, where it was about couples that had been together 50 years or more. And kind of one of the things they all agreed on was, what was the thing that kept you together? They asked them that question again and again in different ways. And the thing that was kind of universal was, we want to be together. Not we don't fight, not that they're perfect, not that they resolve their stuff. So if it's 70%, that sounds about right. They just like, you know what, we're not going to resolve it. And we want to be together. And it's not like you have no problems when you're alone. You have different problems, and it's not projected onto the partner.
Exactly. And it just, I think, makes the path sweeter for those of us who are on it, because it is hard and we all are on our hands and knees. I mean, I think that's the main thing, that nobody feels like they've got it figured out. It's a parts understanding, right? We have to have that there's an adult self that if he was in the driver's seat all the time, we wouldn't be in these conflicts, right? That's all. It's just that we regress very, very simply and rapidly. Rock, what were you going to say?
That getting out of this impossible situation, I maintain humor is the best medicine, comedy. And Maurice, you've described exactly how you use it. What can I and Jack, what can we do that's along those lines of what you've done with the animals?
I have a suggestion immediately. It came to mind because it was one of my meditation teachers, a guy named Leonard Jacobson, a nice Jewish man from Australia. He would say, take that part of you when you're in that, whatever that is. In your case, it's like, I'm right. And he'd say, ham it up, exaggerate it, make fun of it. So I got, when you're really in it, this is what's beautiful about this. It doesn't take your partner to enable it. It's all up to you. You have the power. So like,
beautiful.
And then just like, that would change the energy of your energy and then hers.
I got my application of that because I have my mirror.
Oh, mirror. Yeah.
And my story with my mirror is that whenever I'm upset, well, forget about the relationship right now. In life, I'm feeling down, or I know with my whatever problem, if I look into the mirror, I will laugh at myself for making a big deal about a fucking little first world problem.
Beautiful.
So what I need to have is a mirror. And when I'm angry, say, excuse me, baby, let me talk to him. You're so fucking angry. Look, you're angry. You want to kill her. What did she fucking do to you? What? Look what's going on here. Thank you. I needed
Beautiful,
that.
Rock. Beautiful.
And so does she.
That's great. I just do one adornment, one modification of that. Pink, yellow, fluffy, furry, spangly. The mirror on a colorful, drape or necklace, so that it looks really silly when you do that.
So
little
guys,
wig.
I have to show you Gordon and Hoodoo. So we have them all decked out. They're like little drag queens, and they're in this little basket and a carriage, and we carry the carriage around. It stays downstairs in the daytime. We bring it upstairs at night. I mean, they're part of our lives. What I'll say is, Jack, exactly what we do. I'll exaggerate it. I'll be like, if I've done something unconscious, right? I'll be like, oh my God, the Gordon, he's responsible for that. And you know what else he did? Can you believe that he did whatever? And then we just start cracking up because it's just me. It's just a way for me to laugh at me and caricaturize me, which is what we're all saying. We've all found our way to this, haven't we? In our own sort of bumbling, crazy, troglodytic way. We found our way into this, right? And it works. I mean, it's so unsophisticated, but it's so high. It melts the differences between everybody, right? It's just humor and playfulness are so high in terms of human modes of expression. I think the way in which the resourcing nature of that play and humor has a compounding effect, I just think it's richer than a sexual connection. I really do. I mean, I think all of it's necessary in relationship, but I think this humor, playful thing, I think we could found a school, y'all, a relationship school based on humor and playfulness. I really believe this, right? That this could be the beginning of it.
It's so easy to talk this stuff when you're not feeling it. The challenge, where, to use your expression, the rubber meets the road, is when you're in it and you know you're right and she is wrong. And for me, my childhood thing is, this is unfair.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
being
Yes.
I'm being
Yes.
accused
Yes.
of being
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Dad,
right.
Dad, you son of a bitch.
Right.
I wasn't
Unfair.
wrong. You're wrong.
Well,
because
unfair, and then a false accusation based on the unfairness, right? So
And
unfair and then falsely accused, and then unseen, misunderstood, and denied in some way, right? I mean, it's insidious. So maybe we can play with some scenes. Maybe we can reenact some stuff. Maybe we can bring our women in and do it in real time. I mean, let's just play around with the medium,
everything goes.
right? Maybe we can do it with each other. I just think it's super. Yeah.
Well, listen, I think we're rounding the bend toward closing, and I am beyond thrilled.
Ciao, guys. Super
Bye,
fun.
guys. Yeah.
What a lovely Friday.
We'll
Lovely
talk
Friday
about
afternoon.
we'll talk about episode 2 coming up. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Ciao, guys.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Much love.